Meanwhile, rains lash many parts of Delhi-NCR region this morning. Roads in the national capital are flooded yet again after heavy downpour brought the city and morning hour traffic to a complete halt. Many low-lying areas have been submerged in rainwater. Vehicular movement has now been affected in the national capital. Adjoining places like Noida and Gurugram now seeing heavy traffic snarls. Delhi police has now issued a traffic alert and asked people to avoid going to areas that have history of waterlogging. In fact, the Indian Met Department has now sounded an orange alert for the day. It's predicted moderate to heavy rainfall at isolated places in the national capital. Orange alert calls for extra preparedness by authorities.
This is the consecutive second day when rain and downpour is happening in Delhi, national capital. One of the most prominent and posh areas of Delhi, Vasant Kunj, is also waterlogged, and you can see that for meters there is no road can be seen under this waterlogged street. For meters, even the vehicles are moving in a single row because almost all the road is being occupied by the rainwater, and as the water has been clogged over the streets, there is no respite for normal commuters who are going for their work and are coming out of their home. Very important to know that this is record downpour for Delhi in last 12 years for month of September. It has already rained for more than 13 centimeters this time in last 24 hours. Although there is a respite from hot and humid weather, but problems galore many. If you are coming out, you have to face waterlogged streets. With camera person Premchand Mishra, it's Kumar Kanal for India Today from Delhi.
Delhi is witnessing heavy rain since morning and waterlogging is expected in a few low-lying areas. I'm currently in Mayur Vihar, where the drainage system could get clogged, which has already started near alleyways and school areas. In the morning, despite the fact that it rained heavily, there are some government schools that are open and students have continued to come to school this morning. Orange alert has been issued for the city this morning, and it would be best to stay indoors if travel is not essential. Most rainfall was seen in the morning at Safdarjung, which is 112 mm, and at Lodi Road, which is about 120 mm. Palam area also witnessed heavy rainfall, but it is expected that this will continue throughout the day, so best to stay indoors. With Alok Das in New Delhi, this is Milan Sharma for India Today.
Let me quickly cut across to Ashutosh joining us live for more on that. Ashutosh, we do know that one heavy bout of rainfall and the infrastructure in Delhi is almost exposed. We're looking at several roads that are currently waterlogged, people barely finding it easy to maneuver through those flooded streets. What has the district administration decided to do?
Well, even I'm maneuvering one of the national highway perhaps which connect Delhi to Noida and NCR. And look at these live images from Indraprasth. Yes, it's Indraprasth. This highway connects, further goes to Noida and NCR and also connects to the DND. One vehicle has completely collapsed, and this is almost look like Indraprastha river, not the national highway. And this is the situation in the national capital. So there is a Met Department's orange alert has been issued. There's going to be scattering heavy rains in certain parts, moderate rain in certain parts. But now this entire stretch that I could see at least 200 to 300 meters had completely submerged, and this is also now affecting the traffic which is snarling at the snarling speed here across almost all the stretch. And if I just take you to 180 degree, how the drainage system has completely collapsed. If we have to talk about this particular part, look at the overflowing drainage system. The manhole cap has completely gone out, and perhaps why the Delhi police has put out a barricade, and this is to save life, because if anyone passes through that, this is gonna risk really the life. And this entire stretch now can be seen completely flooded, and since the rain is continuous, it's gonna rain again till evening. Orange alert has been issued till 2:30 p.m. They're gonna be moderate to heavy rain in certain parts. Administration has put out certain places pump, like one I can see with the tractors here. The drainage, the pump have been put out here to pump out the water towards the Yamuna, but this clearly looks inadequate, insufficient, as largely the water, since it has been heavily raining since morning, the arrangements at different places have been made are clearly inadequate and insufficient at the moment. Here now in Indraprasth, this really looks unbelievable. At least in last few years, I have never seen this this kind of situation, particularly on the national highway kind of area. If you passes through, I've always traveled, over the years I've traveled to this stretch, even during the monsoon. But what I see here at the moment is clearly unbelievable. These are really the images, says the infrastructure and the management monsoon drainage system. Everything that the government and the agencies talk about has completely collapsed in this monsoon. Here, what I can see at least through these images, Nabila.
Ashutosh, but year on year, this is a problem. We see this happening so often. Isn't there any corrective measures that the government takes even before the monsoon session arrives? And we do know that this time there was an alert. Most parts of North India have been drowning in these incessant rains, and Delhi, of course, is no different. Any word on a proper planning strategy that they are going to come up with to ensure that people don't suffer this kind of rainfall, they don't get caught up in this mess year on year?
When already there is flood-like situation, no agencies or government can really do, at least on the emergency level. What happens is when the monsoon, when the monsoon is scheduled, then exactly where the government and agencies begin their job, be it the civic agencies like MCD or the Delhi government. And that's the way of planning. You clean up all your drainage system. You ensure wherever there are low-lying areas, the pumping system should be placed properly and in a sufficient number that should evacuate the water if there is waterlogging situation. What the government says, and they have done that, at certain low-lying areas, the pumping stations have been placed out. Even at the place where I'm standing, the pumping station has been placed out. But the amount of water that we are seeing and the gravity of the rain that we are seeing here, that has completely now failed down the system and the preparations arrangement that were made. And look now how the people are forced to push their vehicles. That has completely collapsed in the waterlogging areas of Indraprastha. And this is happening in most part of not only Delhi, but across NCR. Nabila.
Absolutely, Ashutosh. Absolutely tragic. I passed by the same route, the DND, and I saw heavy rains, of course, resulting in trees that were fallen. There was none from the DDA to assist people who were stranded right there. It's unfortunate. It appears that there is no helpline number. There's no way that a person who's caught up in these rains or floods or is stranded in the middle has any way to actually call for emergency help. Is there a helpline number that the government is really putting out at least?
We will get to those updates as well if there are some helpline numbers being put out or not. But at the moment, what the government is saying that pumping stations have been placed and they are monitoring the situation. Wherever there is logging system, the civic agencies and the PW department and the irrigation department all are being rushed to evacuate water quickly. Here I can see at least this department here, the flood department and also the PWD is working the barricades because the manhole, since it has completely blown up and now the water we are seeing through the overflowing drainage system, these are at least the methods and the exercises being carried out at least certain pockets to ensure there is no loss of life, because if the manhole cap is open, this is certainly gonna end up with certain casualties. So these attempts are being taken here. The heavy pumping set have been also placed out at Indraprastha to evacuate water from this area. But again, as I said, since it has been raining since yesterday, the arrangements and the arrangements made by agencies or the government has completely collapsed before this furious rain that is taking place in the capital, Nabila.
Right. Ashutosh, now that the Met Department has sounded an orange alert, what does that really signify for? What kind of warning is that going out to people?
Well, the orange alert, that simply means they're going to be more and more heavily raining, because Delhi perhaps hasn't seen such kind of rain last few years. And we also know the Met says the last 24 hours, the Delhi has seen rain more than Mumbai, because Mumbai, what we know, usually this happens Mumbai when there is a situation of high tide. In Delhi, there is no high tide kind of scenario, but waterlogging takes place when there are drainage which are not adequate enough to pass the the water that is logging particular areas. So if there is no such things, so no such arrangements, this is bound to happen, and this happens every year in certain pockets. Since this was a more and more and heavily raining in Delhi, clearly the waterlogging places are more in number, but we have seen what it takes at Minto Road. That has been now cleared, but there are other low-lying areas which are witnessing waterlogging, and possibly perhaps why there is a snarling traffic on all these stretches. And clearly to all our viewers, those who are watching the broadcast, if they are planning to move out, just need to be really careful about this. Could be now heavy traffic jam particularly when the evening, when the people will be returning back from Delhi to their homes. Just be really careful because there could be possibly heavy traffic jam.
Right, Ashutosh, thank you very much for joining us with those details. Here, of course, we're looking at a serious flooding that's reported from many parts of Delhi. Right now, you're getting live visuals coming in. ITO is where Ashutosh is, where he says that pumping of the water, they're trying to ensure that whatever the flood has resulted in vehicles there stranded for hours now, that kind of help is now being given out by authorities through a pumping machine, and that's where Ashutosh is monitoring the situation. But this is an orange alert that's been sent out to people at large. That means that rains will continue. In fact, just yesterday, the Met Department said that the rains would continue for 24 hours. This morning, they realized that an orange alert needs to be sounded, and that's, of course, caught the Delhi population unaware. Incessant rains, floods have now wreaked havoc across of Uttar Pradesh as well. Houses are submerged, people are suffering because of lack of food and drinking water. India Today, in fact, travelled to the interiors of Gonda as well as Barabanki districts by boat for a reality check. Here's our ground report.
Sitting on this cot right outside our home, which is now in water, Nisha is desperately looking for help. She lives with her sister and younger brother in a village in Gonda district of Uttar Pradesh. One of the worst hit by the floods ravaging many parts of the state.
क्या-क्या दिक्कतों का सामना करना पड़ रहा है?
सब दिक्कत पड़ रही है।
क्या किस तरह की?
बाढ़ आई, सब कुछ भी बह गया था और पिताजी हमारे भैंस आग के सूखे के और निकल गया और घर पे सब कुछ छोड़ के।
Shyam Raji has a similar story to tell. Guarding the little that she has left, Raji is waiting for the flood waters to recede. All this in the hope that she can soon be reunited with her family.
परिवार हमार भैंस लेके गया है बाप पूत और नात पतुआ सब बेउंदा ऊपर हर माँ पठाई दिन पानी में बहुत परेशान लड़का की हारे।
तो आप यहाँ क्यों बैठी हैं अकेले?
अरे हम बैठी हैं, अब सर सामान सब धरा है, घर छोड़ कहाँ चले?
सामान को बचाने के लिए बैठी।
हाँ।
Access to these remote areas is tough. India Today travelled to the interiors of Gonda district by boat for a reality check. Village after village, there are countless people waiting for government aid, waiting for food and even for drinking water. The government, when approached by our team, claimed help is being arranged.
एसडीआरएफ, बाढ़ की चौकी, मेडिकल टीम और पशुओं को बचाने की व्यवस्था, गोताखोर, नाव, स्टीमर, ये सारी व्यवस्थाएं की गई हैं और हर तरीके की राहत सामग्री लोगों को देंगे। पूरी सरकार जनता जनार्दन के साथ खड़ी है। जहां कहीं भी कोई जल जमाव है उसकी हर तरीके की उनको सुविधा प्राप्त हो, इसके लिए हम लोग तत्पर हैं।
The situation is not so different, just a couple of hours away in Barabanki. India Today visited the Kodhari village along with relief workers. And what we saw is this: 5 feet deep water and submerged houses. Manas Ram and his family, including children, say they haven't eaten for a day.
पहले खाना वाना सब राहत मिलत रहा है, तो अब खाना वाना तहसील साहबदार साहब बंद कर दी है कि अब राशन मिल गया है तो खाना अपने हाथ बनाओ खाओ। यहाँ साहब ना लकड़ी है, ना ईंधन है, ना गैस है।
हमने यहाँ इसके लिए प्रशासन की तरफ से 28 नावें लगा रखी हैं जो कंटिन्यूअस बेसिस पे जो यहाँ नीचे के लोग हैं इनको बंधे पर ले जाके विस्थापित किया जा रहा है। और वहाँ उनको भोजन सुबह और शाम दोनों समय दिया जा रहा है।
The villagers are waiting for the help from administration. Some of the villagers haven't eaten a single bite since this particular day and are waiting for the lunch packet. Though they say that ration have been provided, but they have no source to prepare food, as with no electricity, nothing can work, be it stove or gas. With cameraman Neeraj Kumar and Rehan, Samar Srivastav for India Today.